session it's on future of technology. The future of technology is even more exciting than what is now happening since data is rising more quickly than ever. We are only at the start of a revolution that will influence every business and every person on the planet. The panel discussion will provide us more information about this. So I just want to introduce the panel members. So before that, I just want to introduce our moderator, Mr. Riji N. Mr. Riji N. is currently Head of Knowledge of ICT Academy of Kerala. He has 20 years of experience in academia and research and skilling.
Now, let me invite the speakers for this session. Firstly, I invite Mr. Tom Antony. He is the co-founder and Chief Technology Officer, Sinergia Labs, which is a rising global software solution in business mobility. I welcome you, sir, to this panel discussion. Welcome, sir.
Next, Mr. Tom Antony, co-founder and Chief Technology Officer, Sinergia Labs. Is a rising global software solution business, mobility, omni-channel, IoT, cloud, and blockchain technology. Sinergia Labs, situated in Kochi, Kerala, provides services to some of the world's most well-known business, including 6 Fortune 500 organizations and enterprises. Mr. Tom Antony, I welcome you, sir.
Our next speaker for the session is Mr. Anoop Madhusoodhanan. He is the Vice President, West Pharmaceutical Services. I hereby welcome you, sir, over the dais.
Next, Varghese Cherian. Varghese Cherian is an enterprise architect with over 28 years of experience architecting, managing, and implementing solutions. Using a multitude of technologies, he is currently the Head of Technology Services at USD Global, where he is accountable for the ATM services line. He is responsible for defining the services that USD takes in the market in the ATM space, as well as defining the accelerators that make these services unique. Sir, welcome you to the guys, sir. Mr. Varghese Cherian, sir. Thank you. I would like to remind Dr. Prahlad Vadakkeppat, you will be joining virtually soon.
Good morning, everyone. We're glad to see the full capacity crowd here. And once again, I welcome everyone to the panel discussion. The first panel discussion as part of ICSET 2022. So we are going to talk something about the future of technology. So here the panel members are already been introduced. So before coming to the panel members, I'd like to share a small little story. It's not a story, it's an incident happened to me 10 years back. I was traveling in a bus in one of the districts in Kerala, Kochi in fact. I was sitting in the last seat. Alongside me, there was a man, he was a laborer worker. He was coming back home after completing his job for the day. And in between I made a call, and once I complete my call, he touched me and asked me, how did you make the call without having a physical keypad on that? Then I noticed I was using a touchscreen mobile phone at that time. Then I demonstrated him, even though there is no physical keypad, there is a virtual keypad, and he said, oh, okay. And after some time he touched me again and said, my wife gets salary by touching on top of a glass like this. He used the word, I hope that all of you got what he meant. He was referring to the ATM machine. So when we talk about technology or the future of technology or the technology implementation, so technology becomes more beautiful when we see the implementation touches the common man, or we try to solve the common man's problem using technology. So here we have panel members. They actually practice, they have solutions using technology. So in the next few minutes, they will be talking about the wonderful solutions they produce using the use of technology. So let me start with Dr. Prahlad. He is joining online. I remember in one of the conferences, he comes and as a delegate, I believe it is more than once in one of our previous editions of ICSET. And he was referring to one of his dreams as the coexistence of robot and human beings. So, Dr. Prahlad, I would like to start with you. So, could you please explain some of the progress that you made in this line, like you and your dream of coexistence of robots and human beings?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of guesswork here, and so because I cannot hear any of the words. So let me state what I understand. Okay, so I think projects happening. Okay, I'm namaste, and I think it is good morning, good afternoon for me. I'm from National University of Singapore, Electrical and Computer Engineering, originally from Pallakkad, Kerala. I work in robotics, and especially within that, humanoid robots, two-legged robots. They are very unique because we work on two legs. Even we don't leave our gods, to have more than two legs. They can have more arms, right? So it's very important for two legs. Why it is important is that walking on two legs is the most difficult activity on known universe, and it's very complex. If you do the mathematics for that, all the dynamics and inverse kinematics, or mind-blowing things, it's very difficult. And now with artificial intelligence, we can do more. With computational capabilities increased, miniaturized sensors as well as computational devices, a lot can be done. Within AI, there are a number of algorithms or tools, physiological artificial neural network, evolutionary algorithms for optimization, and lately deep learning. So I utilize all these for various projects, and some of them, of course, the traditional humanoid robot and mobile robot, but lately into warehouse robotics, where we have to have a large number of robots simultaneously controlling and the command and control of them without collision. And it's not about collision, avoiding collision alone, but we need to know how to optimize the performance, minimum time, minimum energy, minimum pathways. So it's a very complex problem as such, but the industry requires that. In most of the warehouse robots, typically, the humans do not enter into that space. Our industrial robots even not allowed, but that is changing now in a big way. And robots and humans have to coexist. We have to share our space, time, and bandwidth, of course, energy as well, with robots. So that really brings in a lot of challenges. And for that, we use robot operating system, which is a virtual platform with enhanced physics engine. It is a digital twin for the robot as well as the environment. However, today's discussion is about Metaverse. In Metaverse, how much physics is required? I think my colleagues, Anoop and Tom, I know them well, I don't know about others, will be able to elaborate more on that. So we use robot operating system for undergraduate and postgraduate teaching and research. And the other aspects are we get anonymized data, big data from industry, as well as healthcare, medical domain, and through national government research centers, because it's easy to handle that data. And we encourage translational research. And I'm an entrepreneur, I also do the consultancy. Almost all PhDs we wanted to aim at converting into a startup. So we have graduate research innovation program. And we also, to conclude on this question, if further points are there, I'll be happy to elaborate. We offer masters in Industry 4.2 for the industrial evolution, and also for undergraduate students as a specialization. And we also believe non-engineers are required when humans and robots have to come into collaboration. So sociologists, psychologists, people who are good at ethnography, understanding human behavior, hilarious language, medical related, all these people have to come together to make humans and robots work together for the benefit of humankind. And to conclude here, I also had a residential learning in space, like a Gurukula, living with undergraduate students, mentoring them, extending classroom care, as well as leadership training. Thank you. I hope I could answer that question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Prahlad. It's nice to know that the progress that you make in this dream that you mentioned. We already experienced the humanoids. We have seen that in COVID times, robots distributing medicines in COVID wards, and we have seen in airports, humanoids are distributing sanitizers. So we see a lot of movement in this particular area. So coming to Tom, so your company, Sinergia Labs, has a lot of digital solutions in different sectors like you have solutions for blockchain, IoT, embedded systems. Then when we name any technology, new technology, you have a solution. So can you explain some of the project that you are currently doing for this larger audience?
Thank you everyone. So it's always nice to see this. It's a great crowd this early morning looking ahead of great technologies and innovations. So I'll just introduce myself and my company. So I am Tom. I am the co-founder and CTO of Sinergia Labs. It's also called CIAL Labs. It's a short of Sinergia Labs. It's a small company. Basically, we are around 250 plus employees right now. Put up in Smart City, and we are building a new office in Info Park right now. We started as a small company 8 years back inside the Info Park campus. We started with digital and mobility as the initial baby steps. So we had a couple of e-commerce customers initially. So we started with digital and mobility. And later, once we had a couple of Fortune 500 customers, mainly on banking and pharma domain, then we shifted our expertise into various new age stacks, basically the deep technologies. So currently we have a good team, very strong team working on data science, data engineering, Metaverse. We are actually one of the very few companies who started Metaverse practice in Kochi or in India, even in India. We have a lot of active customers in the Metaverse and data science space right now. We are into robotics, VLSI, embed. So it's a mix of a lot of technology stacks coming together. We call ourselves a startup even though we are 8 years old because we still have that fire and heat running an organization in a startup culture.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we will come back to you with more insights on some of the key projects that you are working on. So thank you, Tom. So coming to Anoop. Anoop works in a pharmaceutical company, SOG, West Pharmaceuticals. So we see that post-COVID, this particular sector has grown like any other technologies. So you tried a lot of technologies. So like I mentioned to a talk, you name any technology. So in your solution you use multiple technology and even you use this Metaverse as an umbrella technology. So give some insights on some of the work that you are doing. Anoop.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity and good morning to everybody. I would like to start by saying that we are probably living in a very wonderful time. If you really, take the whole history of humanity, right? The human ingenuity and the human pursuit for freedom, happiness. I do think we are at a point that we have a number of different technologies, capabilities at our pursuit. Now, to answer the question, to talk a little bit about how that translates to what I am doing. As Riji mentioned, I am in the pharma domain. Coming in there from the high-tech consulting space. So West is an organization with 30 manufacturing sites worldwide. So when we really think about Metaverse, we translate that more to how that would add efficiencies across all these different operations, including the manufacturing sites, creating digital twins across the locations we have worldwide, creating connectivity for equipment. Prahlad mentioned about the digital twin, right? How do you interact with a number of these equipments, across manufacturing sites? How do you onboard people? But on the other side of this is the whole spectrum of, remote capabilities that Metaverse could bring in areas of health. COVID was a classic example. The whole hospital went to the home, right? I mean, the hospital started becoming home care, right? And an aftermath of this is, how do you really provide capabilities over the wire? Normal human interactions became remote. New collaboration spaces evolved. So I do see, that opportunity when you really think about the future. How do you really even envision a digital twin for a human being, where you start, measuring the signals coming out of the body, right? And then how do you really use that for making accurate predictions? And this is already happening in a lot of different areas. And I also see this possibility that humans are potentially evolving to some level of transhumanism. It is not even futuristic. We are all having wearables one way or the other. We are all starting to collect information. You start seeing evolution of technologies like Neuralink, which can, sense your brain current, translate that to inference, or vice versa. You can take the vision. Maybe 5 years from now, Riji, all of us will be sitting here wearing an Apple glass, or maybe we won't be here, right? We would be projecting our 3D image. People will be sitting in their home wearing an Apple glass. We are coming up as a hologram, right? So I do see this evolution, and maybe we can talk more about this later. But specifically in pharma, it's a very exciting time. We do envision that transformation of care and patient experiences to more virtual. And about Metaverse as a general idea, how exactly that would end up, I mean, that's still there to see.
Okay, thank you. Anoop has a very interesting personality, and maybe the audience sitting here will maybe get excited to hear his story. We will come to that maybe in the coming time. So coming to a person with almost 28 years of experience in listening to stories of customers, then architecting the solutions and implementing it, and so you may be converting a lot of user stories into working products. So you might have seen the evolutions in getting the requirement and converting it into a product. So what is the current scenario? So can you tell some stories related to that?
Good morning, everyone. Everybody talked about the digital twin, talked about remote. I am still a guy who still talks to customers face to face. So my world comes from talking to customers on a daily basis, trying to understand their problems. Do we use Metaverse? Yes. A lot of our customers are looking at it from an innovation standpoint, looking at the art of the possibility. Right? What is possible in this world? How do you use it? There are large customers are still working and trying to understand how they can use Metaverse and apply it for their own uses. But even today, a lot of the work I do involves talking to customers, trying to understand the problems they have, sometimes even redefining the problems. Because like most of you know, right, when you go to a doctor and tell the doctor that you have a headache, it doesn't necessarily mean that your eyes are fatigued. There is maybe you've strained yourself or stressed yourself. Those are symptoms, right? The actual problem could lie elsewhere. And typically, what do the doctors do? The doctors will say, maybe take this test or that test, try and help you to understand what the problem is. And that's exactly the way that you look at it from an industry perspective. A lot of the time, the problems that the customers come with might not be the actual problems to solve for, right? Because if you don't solve for the right problems, the challenge is that you will spend a lot of money and you'll waste a lot of money trying to solve problems that are not going to give you any value. So that's where I come from. Now, in terms of technologies, like all of the panelists said, I started when C was very, I'm probably as old as Dr. Prahlad, probably a different era, right? When all you needed was one technology. And I have seen the evolution of IT over these years, almost the last 30 years. When today, if you think about a developer, an average developer, he or she needs to know probably about 7 to 8 technologies to solve a problem. That's the level of complexity that technology has come to. Is it good or bad? I don't know, right? You have to tell us whether it's good or bad. But that's the reality. So things don't stand still. And Anoop was kind of talking around the same concept, right? You don't know what is coming. We don't know what is coming. All we can do is to be prepared to understand the trends, look at technologies, look at solutions that help us to get to the trend. Because for the clients that I work with, whether they are retailers, healthcare, insurances, you are their customers. So when you tell them that, hey, this is not working, when you tell them that when I go to a store, if I have only 2 products to essentially buy, why should I stand in a long queue? Can I do self-checkout? It's almost unseen here in Kerala at this point. In the West it has come. You call it queue busters, there are automated scanners and so on, where you can go and scan your products, bill it, tag it and go. To the point where some of you must already know about Amazon Go, a completely unmanned store. You scan your mobile, get inside, buy the product off the shelf, automatically build, and you go. UST has built something very similar. In fact, it's already out there with multiple clients today, where we have done something very similar. All you need is a mobile. Everything else, right? The store has cameras that help you determine what you're picking from. The shelf is actually a weighing machine that knows how many products you have picked up. The camera checks how many products you have put into your basket, and then it automatically calculates the cost. You have your credit card on your mobile, that is billed automatically. You scan and go. In India, we think it is a bit far away, but you never know. When mobile came in the 90s, the late 90s, right, unlike every other country, we moved directly into digital mobile technology, whereas in the US, it was still analog. So our ability to probably catch up and move is very good, right? And that's where you come in. Your ability to understand technology, your ability to assimilate it, use it, will help us leapfrog some of these trends that are going on. And like Anoop said, tomorrow, you wouldn't know whether we are sitting here physically or virtually. And that's where technology is moving. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Varghese, for that. So some of the things that as a student community, you should take it from what he said. Like most of the times we do academic project, we will take somebody else's problem statement. We don't know whose problem statement is that. So we do have opportunity to go around, see the problem statement around, problems around, convert it into problems, then try to solve those problems. So that when you do that, once you get into the industry, then you will be doing the same thing in the next level. Through the first round, you got an opportunity to listen to the panelists and what they are currently doing. And Dr. Prahlad mentioned about the activities he does in robotics, artificial intelligence, and Tom mentioned about his company touches different areas. Then Anoop also mentioned about pharma as a key sector. Then listen to the stories from Varghese. So in the next round, actually what we would like to do is to, so we know that when we talk something now, I, as a kid, as a student, watched a television series called Tony Soko and he's flying a robot. I don't know how many, the teachers might be knowing that English film serial, it happened in 1960. It was actually shooted in Japanese language. Jane Robot, it's another television series. They were talking about robot with emotional intelligence or even IQ and EQ. Right now we are actually experiencing that. So 50, 60 years before, television series or fictions were written or series were made, visualizing this will happen after a few years. So now we are not going to talk something about 50 years from now. We are going to talk about something that happened in the next 3 to 5 years time. I know that most of you will be graduating in the next 3 to 4 years time. So right now you may be attracted to a particular branch of engineering because you see a lot of scope now. Artificial intelligence or computer science has got a lot of significance because a lot of job opportunities are there. But the scenario may be different after 3 years or 4 years. So now we would like to hear from the panel what they see as an opportunity that lies in the 3 to 4 years time. So going back to Dr. Prahlad, he mentioned about the robotics and the development that happens in robotics and artificial intelligence. Dr. Prahlad, what do you see the opportunities that in this area? Like here, right now we see a lot of implementation in robotics and artificial intelligence. So how it is going to be after 3 years or 5 years?
Thank you. The audio is very clear, so I could follow you very well. And I think the previous speaker was mentioning, we don't know what the future is. That's a real reality. Earlier we used to talk about 20 years of planning. Then it became 10 years. Now 5 years, and we don't know what will happen in 2, 3 years. And all this accelerated because of COVID as well. Our issue is we are in comfort zones all the time. COVID came and shaken up us like anything. I'm sitting in Singapore and talking to you. So that's the way it is going to become. I see 3 specific aspects, 3 promising scenarios related to robotics, enhanced with AI, and whatever other technologies that are required, 5G, virtual spaces and twins, etc. One is, in human environment, smart mobility is going to happen. And this is already happening. In the roads or even in malls, robots will become a common scenario. And that requires enhanced cognition and autonomy. The robot needs to know just more than obstacle avoidance. Robot need to do more than park planning, even if it is dynamic park planning. Need to understand, I think the speaker mentioned about the understanding, say, emotions. This is the way ahead, how to understand somebody's discomfort in a mall, for example, and how to act on it, how to inquire, madam, what do you like to have? What is your problem? How am I helping? So these are all the collaborative, interactive spaces wherein normal traditional way of programming is not sufficient. We need to go beyond. So our students work on emotion regulation, but a particular emotion, so we say nodding up and down is yes in one part of the world, and going left and right is yes in some other place, and Malayalis do the other way together. So there are variations in human behaviors. Understanding, contextualizing those behaviors and enhancing the interaction is a very big challenge. And I think, as someone said, the previous speaker, we need young minds who are not bounded like us. We are all biased. I have strong feeling and faith in the young minds who can do wonderful things. And these two, that is the smart mobility in human environment enhanced cognition for autonomy, will lead to symbiotic coexistence of humans and robots. And I would like to say, even elderly care will be more easier. Taking care of ourselves can be better. We never know that our mental well-being may be better defined when we have robots around us. I'd like to just conclude here with one statement that autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles are not going to come. But the COVID has led to certain specific changes in the way industry works or the way things happen around us. So one example in Singapore, we heavily depend on foreign workers for construction, and COVID affected us. So much funding is there now to automate civil construction to the core. And that is right from the design. Design for automation is important. Building information management and how gazebo can be used from the raws and how Metaverse can be used from a remote space to really understand what is happening, how the progress is happening. So that is one important space where we all have to come together, the boundaries of friendship. I would like to rest my case here. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Prahlad. So coming to you, Tom, again, so you are the CEO of your company, so CEOs generally think beyond 3 years, so the strategy for the company. So now you are into different projects, so how you see the future using these technologies?
So I would like to quote the statement which Anoop delivered during his initial part of his conversation. We are living at the right time of the technology. So basically, I could see how we evolved from a digital to a Web 3.0 world. So everyone started with a plain website with a couple of product catalogs listed there. And now people are thinking about a metaverse where someone could buy a commodity or a product in a metaverse ecosystem. So just imagine a situation where we could use a metaverse for Amazon, metaverse for Swiggy, metaverse for all different platforms which are available in Web 2.0. So the current trend is towards Web 3.0 and blockchain. So that is a major trend going on right now. So almost all major players are working on that. So people started noticing noticing metaverse once Facebook actually became a brand under the name Meta. So people started searching for what is Meta once Facebook introduced that to the world. So the world is moving towards Web 3.0 platforms. Using the blockchain and cryptocurrency, we can move the existing world to the next level. So that is a direction which all the companies are moving forward. Again, in Metaverse, the major advantages are in the engineering, production, training in those areas, because these are the areas where people can make money. All the major industries or companies are investing a lot in their production pipeline, engineering, design and training using Metaverse. There are a lot of use cases to be addressed. Still we are in the initial phase of Web 3.0 migration. So that is where the technology is going.
Okay, so thank you Tom for that input. So when we actually conduct a few student project competitions, and now when we get project submissions, some of the topics that we get are related to blockchain, artificial intelligence and robotics, which means that the academia, especially the student community, is actually chasing the changes or the trends that is in the industry. That's actually a good sign. So coming back to you, Anoop, when we have a new technology coming in, not many people tries to experiment on that. So you are a person who actually started early, so now we see some implementations. For most of us, maybe Metaverse is still an imaginative thing, so we don't see any implementations. We are still maybe in the POC level. So from your experience, so how do you see the future? How you see the development that we could be able to see in the next 2 years?
Right. Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I would probably try to index the answer around 3 specific areas, right? What are some of the key, disruptive changes that is coming in my view, and how that would change, probably humanity, right? The first one is probably at the personal experience level. And, all of us know this. I'm pretty sure all of us learned history. So most of us learned about this story that we started with a stone chisel, right, for gathering food, and we ended up with a mobile phone to, order food now through Swiggy or Zomato, right? So that transformation from a stone to a mobile phone, that is the story of human ingenuity. But what is next? So I do believe at a personal experience level, we would absolutely see wearable smart AR glasses which can pop up objects right in front of us maybe in the next 5 to 10 years. I see that as the natural evolution of that human experience. But that's not the end of it. It's just one component. As I mentioned, technologies that can amplify the human sensory perceptions. I gave Neuralink as an example with direct brain interfacing. So this evolution of transhumanism, as they call it, it's not necessarily a bad term. Approaching it from a very optimistic standpoint, amplifying human senses, connecting AI models directly with our brains. If you really see some of the upcoming startups in that space. And then going further beyond, as Varghese was mentioning, how do you really observe the human body, the personal experience, and intervene, in a very offline way as well as in a very connected way, right? For example, we just saw 2 years back, I think it was last year, Google's AlphaFold, that is a AI-driven, reinforcement learning model. For the first time, an AI-driven reinforcement learning model was able to beat, the human competitors when it comes to figuring out the protein folding problem, which is very fundamental to figuring out what goes inside the body. So that the evolution of personalized medicine, the evolution of personalized, observations, maybe be it microbiome, be it, sequencing your genomes and figuring the trends. So this whole personalization is actually going to be a big thing from a technology standpoint, combining that with sensory perception. So that's the first index, the personal aspect. Now, the other aspect is the whole collaboration community aspect of this. And here the biggest trend that I would say, is pretty much this evolution in the computing paradigm itself. We all know about the mainframes, right? It was like long time back, still a lot of people use it. But then after mainframes, the PC revolution happened. Everybody had a small computer. And then people again started connecting, these computers together, the whole internet was formed, right? Now this is again going through one more transformation. You don't need a model view, controller to share the state. You don't need huge data centers, right? Now what is happening is people are connecting their, computers each other, leveraging technologies like blockchain. And what this is enabling us to do, now for the first time in the human history, an Indian, a Pakistani, an American, a Russian, everybody can really agree on the same set of truth without somebody in the middle to enforce that. That is a huge change, because now you don't need, a centralized player like Uber for connecting you with the driver, right? You don't need a centralized player like Facebook or Google to actually connect the demand and the supply. You don't even need banks to establish trust between the lender and the borrower, right? Now, for the very first time in the human history, we are actually seeing this trend where collaboration is becoming more peer-to-peer, leveraging trust networks like, a blockchain. And the very first experiment of this is Bitcoin. So I do see some of these trends coming together. You are, now having very personalized experiences. You can even use them to project your virtual, avatar to a digital space. Now you are, going away from this cloud-based model into a peer-to-peer, blockchain-driven model where you can really start bringing in economics around that, right? So how many hours a day each of us spends time staring at the screen? It's probably like 8 hours, right? Or maybe more, maybe 10. So we are already living in that digital world, and Metaverse is just the next evolution of that, projecting your personal self into that digital space. But then, going beyond these centralized models to really establish peer-to-peer networks, to start bringing in, economics around that for managing demand and supply. So I do believe, all of this will lead to a really exciting future as long as we are careful and cautious about it. Remember, government tried to ban internet back in 1990 because, they thought it was going to be something really bad. And then the cryptography was banned, right? But then, we figured the net sum, the positive, aspect that it creates is much better than the negative aspect. So we didn't let that happen. So I do think these few trends, this evolution of transhumanism, the evolution of, computing-driven biology, the evolution of AR and VR experiences, the evolution of this peer-to-peer model that will replace centralized institutions. I recommend you to read this site, 1729.com. This is about how you can really start a new country, leveraging a peer-to-peer model. Then there are concepts like DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, how to start a new company in a very peer-to-peer manner, right? So these are very, very exciting developments in my view.
Okay, thank you, Anoop. So coming back to you, Varghese, so being the head of technology services, solving real-life problems, you should use multiple technologies. So picking the right technology, so one of the challenges that you face might be the longevity of the solution. So when we pick a particular solution, you should be very, very clear about the longevity of that particular solution. So how you do that, and what's the process that you do in which you select?
Well, if I knew the answer to that, I think I would probably make a lot of money. But jokes apart, technologies evolve, right? And I'll probably give 3 examples. Might not be very easy for you to probably think about it, but can you think of a time when there was no Wi-Fi? Right? I sound like a dinosaur, but I am a dinosaur, right? Because like I said, I came from a world where every computer had to be connected, right? Wired. Today we take Wi-Fi for granted. Tomorrow, with 5G coming in, imagine that the entire world is a mesh where you can just access your internet irrespective of where you are. And that's really what 5G gives you. Whether you're sitting in a cafe, you don't have to depend upon the Wi-Fi in the cafe, but your 5G networks, today they are 4G, tomorrow they are 5G, will give you blazing speeds on your mobile. When I started work in distributed computing in those days with wired connectivity, we could not even think about a Wi-Fi world or a wireless world where people did not have to use a wired connection at all. And then in between, something came which was Bluetooth. So one of the best examples that people used to talk about Bluetooth was that before you start for home, especially in the Western countries, you could switch on your heater. So by the time you reach your home, your rooms were kind of heated up to an ambient temperature of your choice. Today, if you know, right, most of your ACs or heaters are actually available on the internet. Right? You don't even need a Bluetooth. See, Bluetooth in those days were about 10 meters, this thing. So to get a Bluetooth connectivity from your office to home, you can imagine the number of hops that needed to happen. Today, it's wireless connectivity. You go on the internet, you type your IP, or if you have a home system, you go to your home system site, you can switch on or off your AC or your lights, whatever be it. Technology changed drastically, right? Today nobody talks about Bluetooth, but Bluetooth is very interesting, even today. One of the work that I was involved with for an American retailer was, retailers give you coupons. So coupons are maybe discount coupons, redemption coupons. But one of the big challenges is if you go to a large retailer, the retailer might have given you 20, 30 coupons. So when you go to, let's say, an aisle that sells bread, it's very difficult for you to look at the 30 coupons and decide whether you have got a coupon to, for your bread, let's say, discount. But if you have Bluetooth, the moment you come to the aisle, the Bluetooth automatically recognizes that you are next to a bread, and it will pop up and show your coupon for discount on bread on your mobile. That technology exists today. And the last trend I want to talk about is something that Dr. Prahlad talked about. One of the work that we did was actually to look at, tellers are people who stand at the POS systems, right? When you go to check out your, items, there's somebody there to help you check out. Now, one of the work that we did was to look at the facial expression and the temperature of the teller, and from that decide the stress levels of the teller. And if the stress levels were getting high, automatically the manager of the shop is called in to intervene and help decrease the tension of the person. The technology exists today. There's another technology which is very interesting, which is used by most of the airports, right, and the security agencies, which is to determine the sweat level on your body as you're walking through an airport. And based on that, to determine whether you're of a high stress, and that high stress could be because you're probably going to do something that is wrong. When we go into an airport, when we go into today, probably in some of these high-risk places, we might not realize that some of these technologies are at work, but they are. Now you think about what Anoop just mentioned, and Dr. Prahlad was also talking about, right? Which is a transhuman experience, right? Systems understand you, and they will modify their behavior to reflect your emotions or changes. Right? So think of the teller example. The stress levels of the teller goes up, maybe a robot comes in, scans the products for you, puts it in your bag, and maybe even offer to carry it, maybe to your car, maybe even deliver it to your home. And that's possible today. You would have all probably seen videos on YouTube on how much automated an Amazon warehouses. And Dr. Prahlad was alluding to it earlier. Imagine autonomous robots that completely take a product, bring it, or put it on the right aisle, pick it up based on your order, pack it, and then put it on a conveyor belt that where some human being or even a system will look at the packing label and decide where to ship it to. Whether it's you sell it to a local, send it to a local courier guy, depending upon where you want to ship it. All that is possible today. Most of the Amazon warehouses are automated across the globe. There's very little human intervention that happens. Could we foresee all of this? The answer is absolutely not. Right? So a lot of the technology that we are going to see in the future is probably not even built today. So our focus is to really make sure that we understand the fundamentals so that we can evolve as developers, as technologists, as users of technology. We have every access to some of these trends. It doesn't have to be anybody sitting here. You know your technology is better. Like Dr. Prahlad was saying, you were born in the digital age. You were born with a mobile in your hand. Not literally, but figuratively, right? We were born with nothing in our hands. You were lucky if you touched a computer in college. That was my scenario. Right? Today, this device, which is probably in each of your hands, has more compute power than some of the systems that we used to send, rockets to the space. When I joined VSSC, the computer that we used for PSLV D1 had 5 MIPS. You know how much one of these does? It does probably about 1,000,000 times more. and it sits in your hand. This was a huge, a computer that was a full stack. So that's how change is happening. But the change is here. You're feeling it, you're touching it. Observe the changes, right? They're happening all around us. Keep observing the changes because that's the only way we can keep ourselves trying to figure out where the next trend is happening or where the next thing is happening.
Okay, thank you. So it's a difficult round, like talking about technology's future 3 to 5 years down the line. It's difficult, especially in the current scenario. But I hope that you got enough insight from this. Moving on to the next, I can see a lot of young faces here. So we're giving you the opportunity to interact with the panel. So what I see in the panel is 100 years of experience put together. Very experienced professionals, proven their mettle in their respective areas. So I'm opening the forum for the audience to interact. Who is going to ask the first question?
Is there any course for the students in Metaverse?
Is there any course on Metaverse?
Yeah.
Is that a course?
Yeah.
Is this course? So you take Anoop.
I can take the question. So, Metaverse is not just one thing, right? So, if you really want to build a Metaverse, I would say there are a few technologies, that you should learn. I don't know if there is one course that covers all of them, but, my suggestion would be, number one, start with any good course on Unity. That's a good starting point. So, Unity is a 3D building, application suite. You need something like that to start building your AR and VR experiences. And it is very easy to start with. So any course on Unity 3D, any good rated course, maybe in Coursera or so, would be a good start. Now, once you really build this experience, then, if you really want to get into the real meaning of Metaverse, build decentralized, economies on top of that, building decentralized models on top of that, you need to learn how to program blockchain and connect both of them, right? Facebook is trying to build a centralized metaverse. But in the real sense, if you really want to start building your own token economics and token models on top of that, you have to learn, programming blockchain, and there is a programming language called Solidity, right? So there are good courses around Solidity as well. So if you really start with these two, I would say you can, start getting into a real sense of how to build that decentralized metaverse with your own tokenomics, your own, transactions, your own avatars around that. Now, if you're building a metaverse for a specific, use case like healthcare or manufacturing, then the backend that you would connect may not be a blockchain. You can still connect with a cloud-based or IoT backend and enrich that experience. But I will stop there. Maybe Varghese, Tom, if you have any.
All right, so that's the next question. Yes.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Dr. Manoj from ICT Academy. I was keenly listening to almost all the panelists, and a couple of questions I'd like to share with you is I do agree what are the developments which is happening with regard to technology. We talk about IR 4.0 into 5.0 now to Metaverse. But still, are we creating a digital divide among the society? When we talk about all these technological developments happening across the state, but at the same time, you can see there are, as Varghese said, even during our college days, even we have not seen even a system or even a mobile phone. Nothing was there. And we find it even the internet connection was not there. Even the dial-up connections were there those days. But from this transformation has happened, but still there are a chunk of population still vested in Kerala where they are not even much aware about it. And can we just demystify that? And how can we really evade this divide among the youngsters, especially youngsters, because there are students from rural areas who are into these arts and science colleges who are even not using their mobile phone to the maximum extent, right? And they don't know the nuances behind the maximum usage of mobile phones. And how this can change, or how can you really augment such skills among the students so that this can be reached to even the bottom of the pyramid of the people?
Now you bring up a good point, right? Unfortunately, the last mile is still a problem, right? Especially in India. In fact, and the COVID brought it really to the fore, right? Because 2020, Jan, Feb, everybody were in schools. Come March and the next academic year, everybody was asked to stay home, right? The world we knew changed. And more so for people who are at the last mile, especially in very, very, very rural areas, where connectivity was a problem, access to devices was a problem, right? And therefore, they were feeling left out. It is a difficult problem. I think from a Kerala government perspective, I think with the network connectivity coming up, I think we will see a change. But the biggest challenge for them is probably not necessarily the access, it is the exposure, right? And I think if you can bring the exposure to them, that here is what the possibilities are, right? I think that can create the change. Because, like Dr. Prahlad was mentioning, I don't know if he's still on, the next generation is their generation, right? They have to figure out, in a sense, their problems and try and solve it using technology, right? Their problems are not going to be understood by a person like me, right? Their problems are not going to be understood only by people who are there in their context, in their environment. And that is very difficult for somebody like me to even think about, right? So two things. One is we need to understand what they're going through for us to solve some of those problems, right? And we should encourage them to solve the problems. Every problem does not need technology, and that's the reality, right? So I'll give you an example. USC has a foundation, and as part of the foundation, we were helping out a school in the district of Ernakulam, where there was no connectivity. So, we decided to give, I think about a set of devices. We bought a huge TV. And then when we went to the place, we realized that we had to carry the TV because there was no road. So we carried the TV and went to the place. And we realized there is no electricity, right? That is the problem that we face, right? When I say, and I'm pointing at myself and saying, because I would have never thought that such a place didn't have electricity, right? Because we take it for granted. But there's no electricity. Now what do? So then we had to rethink, right? We created a solar panel, decided to use a battery. Then we had to redesign the system to make sure that the battery was good enough to power the TV, power the mobiles, give enough light for them to use their textbooks, and that was solving the problem. But ultimately, we did create a small haven there, right, to do it. But I think everybody who went on that journey realized that the world is very different, and could be very different, right? We couldn't even imagine lack of connectivity. We can't imagine lack of electricity. We can't imagine, not being able to see a TV or not being able to connect to the internet. But that is the reality. The good thing is, when we were stuck, the students there said, "Sir, can we use, solar?" Right? And they were helping out. So, like I said, you don't need technology as in computers to really solve some of these problems. You just need to tap into the right mindset, and I think we should be able to solve it. It is possible. That's what COVID has taught us. And technology will evolve to kind of, create opportunities and solutions to solve some of those problems.
Okay, thank you. It's actually, there's an interesting point, like if you sometimes you don't even need a technology for solving problems. So we are coming to the end of the session, so let me connect Dr. Prahlad for the closing remarks. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the session with the comments and the questions. I would like to say for the general, especially we are addressing the students, as per the World Economic Forum 2020 October report, by 2025, that is 3 years from now, 85 million jobs will be displaced, and humans, algorithms, and machines will be dividing the job. However, 97 million roles will emerge because of AI, robotics, and other technologies. So you have to be very mindful of this. And AI and other related technologies will be omnipresent everywhere. And the boundaries of specializations are vanishing. So don't assume you are a mechanical engineer, or an electrical engineer, or an electronics engineer. That is useless. You need to really throw away and you work together. Interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary areas are required. A robot working in a civil construction area, I'm into that space right now. I don't know anything about civil engineering. I need to learn about civil engineering. I need to learn about BIM. I need to learn about a lot of SOPs and legal aspects to it. So please come out of this specialization boundaries and have multiple skill sets. Be agile, ready to learn new skills, and be prepared not for a career for lifetime. Be prepared for a lifetime of multiple careers. All the best to you. Your brains are much better. I think Mr. Varghese was saying that you are much better off than us. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining. So over to Tom, your closing remarks.
First of all, thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to come and speak in front of you. Actually, world is moving very fast. As Prahlad said, almost all Indian companies are in a situation where we have a big pipeline and we don't have many resources to solve the problem. So there is a great opportunity for all the students who is passing out this time. So this is the right time to enter into the industry and give the maximum output to the society and the technology world. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you for your thoughts. Anoop.
So maybe I quickly want to mention a specific story, real quick, right? So this is the story. NASA wanted to partner with a couple of private players to launch rockets to the space station, right? And who was the expert? Boeing. Boeing was the expert, right? So they bought in Boeing, and then there was this small startup, SpaceX, who were just exploring space technology, who were like building toy rockets. So I believe NASA gave a $4.5 million to Boeing because they were supposed to win the race. They were the experts. And then they had SpaceX, who was like this toy company. They haven't even had one rocket that they launched. So Boeing had all these processes. They had all these like amazing systems and legacy and technologies, and they were like planning. SpaceX told, okay, we don't know, we know nothing, right? Let's start building the rockets. So they were like starting to prototype. They were building one component at a time. They were like failing often, failing time and again. And finally, do you know who won the race? SpaceX. They were able to beat Boeing. So never underestimate the opportunity of a fresh start, and don't trust the experts. Okay? This is my message to you. I believe intellectual curiosity is probably the most important skill that anybody can have in the next century, right? Or even this century. And the way to get there is just start doing it. Start jumping in, start learning, start iterating. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Don't wait for the experts to guide you. Whatever areas that you are passionate about, jump in, fail, right? Fail multiple times, iterate, and that's how I believe anybody would become successful. That's the organization. Thanks.
Thank you, Anoop.
Just adding on to what everybody else said, right? So there are fundamental things that fundamental skills that we need, whether it's programming, forget all of that, right? How do we solve problems? Right? Anoop talked about curiosity. There are so many problems that exist around us. And we don't have to go looking for a project, literally, right? And that was my great learning as I've gone through life. There are so many projects that are around everybody's homes. The curiosity that Anoop talked about should help us to see those problems. Right? Number one. Then we need to solve the problems. Right? And that is where what Dr. Prahlad was talking about will come in, right? Because solving the problem is not a single discipline. It involves many things. Right? I don't know who asked the question about Metaverse. Anoop was in a way struggling to answer that question because Metaverse is not one thing, right? It is many things in one. So if you say that we have to be good at Metaverse, right, you need to be able to understand the physical world in order to model the physical world in a virtual environment. You need to understand what processes happen in the physical world for you to model that in the virtual environment. You need to understand the problems that exist in your physical world for you to decide how you will solve that in the virtual environment. And there is therefore not one but many. So whether we are an electronics engineer, like Dr. Prahlad was saying, you can use that skill but learn other capabilities along with it. If you want to design a smart building system, you need to understand civil engineering to a certain extent. At least to understand maybe how pipes are laid out, how electricity comes and how AC ducts are made, right? So thinking systems is very important. So when we define problems, we think systems, and then we try and solve it using multidisciplinary. So core skills, right? Whether tinker, have the curiosity to see, learn, try things out. Right? Today, all of that is easy. A lot of people use Arduino boards to solve basic problems. I have a colleague of mine who's automated his entire watering of the plants using an Arduino system at home. Right? And his concept is that gives me more time. Right? So I don't have to go take a hose, go to every plant and water. I have an Arduino system that does this on like a drip farming this thing. Every moment it checks the salinity, meaning the hydro this thing of the soil to decide whether it needs water, and then it drips water in. Completely controlled using Arduino. So these are simple things, right? There's another guy who's automated his entire fish feeding using an IoT set of devices. He runs it on a breadboard. Let me tell you very clearly, right? Not even an Arduino board, a breadboard. I'm sure most of you understand what a breadboard is, right? So look at the problem, tinker with it. You have access to technology, you have access to YouTube. A lot of these things are there. Go figure it out yourself. Try it, fail, try it, succeed. In that process, we will all learn. No college is going to be able to teach you every skill. No college can decide and determine whether the technology is what you're learning today is what is going to be used 10 years, 5 years from now, 4 years from now when you graduate. Interestingly, I'm working on a project where we are going back to compiler design.
Excuse me, so we are running out of time, so can you conclude that?
So, long story short, keep looking outside, learn from it. I think that's the best thing you can do. Solve the problems. Learn how to solve problems. Thanks.
Thank Thank you, thanks a lot. So thank you for your experience sharing as well as the insights. So even though we discussed about the future of technology, I would like to say that the technology's future is in your hands. So you are the people responsible for the future technologies, and wishing you all the best. So once again, thank you all the panel members.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful session. It was great listening to the topic future of technology. Before winding up the session, would we give a token of appreciation for our speakers? For that, I invite Mr. Riji N, Mr. Tom Antony, CTO, Sinergia Labs, Mr. Anoop Madhusoodhanan VP, West Pharmaceutical Services, Mr. Varghese Cherian, Head Technology Services, US. Thank you. Thank you, sir.